ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Forward to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is a principal work on the life and teachings of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a pioneer of great social and religious movement that began in India about 500 years ago and that has directly and indirectly influenced the subsequent course of religious and philosophical thinking, not only in India but throughout the world. That Sri Krishna Chaitanya's influence has spread so far is due in large to the efforts of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the present work's translator and commentator, and the founder and the Acharya spiritual guide of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is thus a figure of great historical significance. However, our conventional method of historical analysis, that of seeing a man as a product of his times, fails here, for Sri Krishna Chaitanya is personality who transcends the limited scope of historical settings. At a time when in West man was directing his explorative spirit towards studying the structure of the physical universe and circumnavigating the world in search of new oceans and continents, Sri Krishna Chaitanya in the East was inaugurating masterminding a revolution directed towards a scientific understanding of the highest knowledge of man's spiritual nature. The chief historical sources for the life of Sri Krishna Chaitanya are the Kadachas, diaries kept by Murari Gupta, and the Swarup Damodar Goswami. Murari Gupta, a physician and close associate of Sri Krishna Chaitanya's, recorded extensive notes on the first 24 years of his life, culminating in his initiation into the renounced order, Sannyas. The events of the rest of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's 48 years were recorded in the diary of Swarup Damodar Goswami, another of his intimate associates. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is divided into three sections called Leelas, a word that literally means pastimes. The Adi Lila recounting the early period of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, the Madhya Lila recounting the middle period, and the Anta Lila recounting the final period. The notes of Murari Gupta form the basis of the Adi Lila, and the Swarup Damodar diaries provides the details of the Madhya and Anta Lilas. The first 12 chapters of Adi Lila constitute the preface for the entire work. By referring to Vedic scriptural evidence, Krishnadas Kaviraj establishes that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the avatar, incarnation of God for the age of the Kali, the current epoch, which began 5,000 years ago and is characterized by materialism, hypocrisy, and dissension. The author also proves that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is identical to Lord Krishna and explains that he descends liberally grant the fallen souls of this degraded age pure love of God by propagating Sankirtan and literary congregational glorification of Lord God, especially by organizing massive public chanting of Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In addition, in the 12th chapter, preface, Krishna's Kaviraj reveals the esoteric purpose of Lord Chaitanya's appearance in the world, describes his co-avatars and principal devotees, and summarizes his teachings. In the remaining portion of Adi Lila chapter 13 through 17, the author briefly recounts Lord Chaitanya's divine birth and his life until he accepted the renounced order. This account includes his childhood miracles, schooling, marriage, and early philosophical confrontations, as well as his organization of a widespread Sankirtan movement and his civil disobedience against the repression of the Muslim government. The Madhya Lila, longest of three divisions, narrates in the detail Lord Chaitanya's extensive and eventful travel throughout India as a renounced mendicant, teacher, philosopher, spiritual preceptor, and mystic. During this period of 6 years, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu transmits his teachings to his principal disciples. He debates and converts many of his renowned philosophers and theologians of his times, including Shankarites, Buddhists, and Muslims, and incorporates their many thousand of followers and disciples into his own burgeoning, burgeoning burgeoning numbers. The author also includes in this section a dramatic account of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's miraculous activities at Giant Rath Yatra car festival in Jagannath Puri, Odisha. The Antalila concerns the last 18 years of Sri Chaitanya's presence spent in the semi-seclusion near the famous Jagannath temple in Puri. During these final years, Sri Krishna Chaitanya drifted deeper and deeper into trances of spiritual ecstasy, unparalleled in all of religious and literary history, Eastern or Western. His perpetual and ever increasing religious beatitude, graphically described in the eyewitness accounts of Swarup Damodar Goswami, his constant companion during this period, clearly defy the investigative and descriptive abilities of modern psychologists and phenomenologists of religious experiences. The author of this great classic, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, born around beginning of the 16th century, was a disciple of Raghunath Das Goswami, a confidential follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's. Raghunath Das, a renowned ascetic saint, heard and memorized all the activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told to him by Swarup Damodar Goswami. After the passing away of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar Goswami, Raghunath Das, unable to bear the pain of separation from these objects of his complete devotion, travelled to Vrindavan, intending to commit suicide by jumping from the Govardhan hill. In Vrindavan, however, he encountered Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatan Goswami, two of the most confidential disciples of the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They convinced him to give up his planned suicide and impelled him to reveal to them the spiritually inspiring events of the Lord Chaitanya's later life. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was also residing in Vrindavan at this time, and Raghunath Das Goswami endowed him with a full comprehension of transcendental life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By this time, contemporary and near contemporary scholars and devotees had already written several biographical works of on the life of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These included Sri Chaitanya Charita by Murari Gupta, Sri Chaitanya Mangal by Lochan Das Thakur, and Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad by Vrindavan Das Thakur. This latter work by Vrindavan Das Thakur, who was then considered the principal authority on Sri Chaitanya's life, was highly revered. While composing his important work, Vrindavan Das, fearing that it would become too voluminous, avoided elaborately describing many of the events of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, particularly the later ones. Anxious to hear of these later pastimes, the devotees of Vrindavan requested Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, whom they respected as a great saint and scholar, to compose a book narrating these episodes in detail. Upon this request, and with the permission and blessings of Madan Mohan deity of Vrindavan, he began compiling Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which, due to its literary excellence and philosophical thoroughness, is today universally regarded as the foremost work on the life of and profound teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami commenced work on the text at a very advanced age and in failing health, as he vividly describes in the text itself. I have now become too old and disturbed by invalidity. While writing, my hands tremble. I cannot remember anything, nor can I see or hear properly. Still, I write, and this is a great wonder. That he completed the greatest literary gem of the medieval India under such debilitating conditions is surely one of the wonders of literary history. As mentioned above, this English translation and commentary is the work of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the world's most distinguished teacher of Indian religious and philosophical thought. Srila Prabhupada's commentary is based upon two Bengali commentaries, one by his guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami, the eminent Vedic scholar, teacher, and saint who predicted the time will come when people of the world will learn Bengali to read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the other by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's father, and instructing spiritual master Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who pioneered the propagation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings in the modern era. Srila Prabhupada is himself a disciplic descendant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and is the first scholar to execute the systematic English translations of the major work of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers. His consummate Bengali and Sanskrit scholarship and intimate familiarity with the precepts of Sri Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya are a fitting combination that eminently qualifies him to present this important classic to the English speaking world. The ease and clarity with which he expounds upon the difficult philosophical concepts enable even a reader totally unfamiliar with the Indian religious tradition to understand and appreciate this profound and monumental work. The entire text with commentary presented by Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust represents a contribution of major importance to the intellectual, cultural, and spiritual life of contemporary man. The publishers, editor's note, revision in this edition are based on the transcripts of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's original dictation of the translations, word meanings, and purpose of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, starting from Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The Spiritual Masters. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than the combined form of Sri Radha and Krishna. He is the life of those devotees who strictly follow in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatan Goswami are the true principal followers of Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, who acted as the most confidential servitor of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, known as Vishwambar in his early life. A direct disciple of Srila Rupa Goswami was Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami stands as the direct disciple of Sri Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. The direct disciple of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who accepted Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as his servitor. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti accepted Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, the spiritual master of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who in turn accepted Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, the spiritual master of Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, the divine master of our humble self, or to be more precise, the divine master of Srila Prabhupada. Since we belong to this chain of disciplic succession from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this edition of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita will contain nothing newly manufactured by our tiny brains, but only remnants of food originally eaten by the Lord Himself. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not belong to the mundane plane of the three qualitative modes. He belongs to the transcendental plane beyond the reach of imperfect sense perception of a living being. Even the most erudite mundane scholar cannot approach the transcendental plane unless he submits himself to the transcendental sound with a receptive mood, for in that mood only can one realize the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What will be described here and therefore has nothing to do with the experimental thoughts created by the speculative habits of inert minds. The subject matter of this book is not mental concoction but a factual spiritual experience that one can realize only by accepting the line of disciplic succession described above. Any deviation from that line will bewilder the reader's understanding of the mystery of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is a transcendental literature meant for the postgraduate study of one who has realized all Vedic literatures such as Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra and their natural commentaries such as Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. This edition of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is presented for the study of the sincere scholars who are really seeking the absolute truth. It is not the arrogant scholarship of a mental speculator, but a sincere effort to serve the order of the superior authority whose service is the life and soul of this humble effort. It does not deviate even slightly from the revealed scriptures, and therefore anyone who follows in the disciplic line will be able to realize the essence of this book simply by the method of oral reception. The first chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita begins with 14 Sanskrit verses that describe the absolute truth. Then the next three Sanskrit verses describe the principal deities of Vrindavan, namely Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Radha Govinda Deva, and Sri Radha Gopinath Ji. The first of the 14 verses is a symbolic representation of the supreme truth, and the entire first chapter is in actuality devoted to this single verse, which describes Lord Chaitanya in his six different transcendental expansions. The first manifestation described in the spiritual master, who appears in two plenary parts called initiating spiritual master and instructing spiritual master. They are identical because both of them are phenomenal manifestations of the supreme truth. Next described are the devotees Next described are the devotees, who are divided into classes, namely apprentices and graduates. Next are the incarnations, avatars, of Lord, who are explained to be non-different from the Lord. These incarnations are considered in three divisions: incarnations of the potency of the Lord, incarnations of his qualities, and incarnations of his authority. In this connection, Lord Sri Krishna's direct manifestations and his manifestations for transcendental pastimes are discussed. Next considered are the potencies of the Lord, of which three principal manifestations are described: the consorts in the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha, the queens of Dwarkadham, and highest of all, the damsels of Rajadham. Finally, there is Supreme Lord Himself, who is fountainhead of all these manifestations. Lord Sri Krishna and his plenary expansions are all in the category of Lord Himself, the energetic absolute truth, whereas his devotees, his eternal associates, are his energies. The energy and energetic are fundamentally one, but since their functions are differently exhibited, they are simultaneously different also. Thus, absolute truth is manifested in diversity in one unit. This philosophical truth, which is pursuant of to the Vedanta Sutra, is called Achintya Bhed Abheda Tattva, or the conception of simultaneous oneness and difference. In the latter portion of this chapter, the transcendental position of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and that of Srila Nityananda Prabhu are described with a reference to the above theistic facts. Now, starting with the text one. वन्दे गुरून् ईश भक्तान् ईशम् ईश अवतारकान् तत्प्रकाशांश्च तच्छक्तिः कृष्ण चैतन्य संज्ञकम्. Vande, I offer my respectful obeisances, Gurun, unto the spiritual masters, Isha Bhaktan, unto the devotees of the Supreme Lord, Isham, unto the Supreme Lord, Isha Avtarakan, unto the incarnations of the Supreme Lord, Tat, of the Supreme Lord, Prakashan, unto the manifestations, Cha, and Tat, of the Supreme Lord, Shakti, unto the potencies, Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sangakam, named. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. वन्दे श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यनित्यानन्दौ सहोदितौ गौडोदये पुष्पवन्तौ चित्रौ सन्दौ तमोनुतौ Vande, I offer my respectful obeisances, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, to Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityanando, and to Lord Nityananda, Sahodito, simultaneously arisen, Gaudodaya, on the eastern horizon of the God, Pushpavanto, the sun and moon together, Chitro, wonderful, Shamdo, bestowing benediction, Tamahanudo, dissipating darkness. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of God to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow the benediction upon all. Text 3. यतद्वैतं ब्रह्मोपनिषदि तदपि यस्य तनुभा य आत्मा अन्तर्यामि पुरुष इति सोऽस्यांश विभवः षड्ऐश्वर्यपूर्णो य इह भगवान् स स्वयम् अयम् न चैतन्यात् कृष्णात् जगति परतत्त्वं परम् इह Yet Advaitam, yet that which Advaitam, non-dual, Brahma, the impersonal Brahman, Upanishadi, in the Upanishads, that api, certainly, asya, his, tanubha, the effulgence of his transcendental body, ya, who, Atma, the super soul, Antayam, indwelling Lord, Purusha, supreme enjoyer, iti, thus, sa, he, asya, his, amsha vibhava, plenary expansion, Shad Aishwarya with all six opulences, Purna, full, Yah, who, Eh, here Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of God, Sa, he, Swayam, himself, Ayam, this, Na, not, Chaitanya, than Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, than Lord Krishna, Jagati, in the world, Para, higher, Tattvam, truth, Param, another, here. Translation. For the Upanishad described as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord, known as Super Soul, is but the localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna himself, full with six opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. Text 4. अनार्पितचरिं चिरात् करुणया अवतीर्णः कलौ समर्पयितुमुन्नत उज्ज्वलरसां स्वभक्तिश्रियां हरिपूरतसुन्दरद्युतिकदम्बसन्दीपितः सदा हृदयकन्दरे वः शशिनन्दनः Anarpita, not bestowed, Charim, having been formerly Chirat for a long time, Karunaya, by causeless mercy, Avatirna, descended Kalau, in the age of Kali, Samarpayitum, to bestow, Unnata, elevated, Ujjwala Rasam, the conjugal mellow, Subhakti, of his own service, Shriyam, the treasure, Hari, the supreme lord, Purata, than gold, Sundara, more beautiful, Duty, of splendor, Kadamba, with a multitude, Sandipita, lighted up, Sada, always, Hridaya Kandari, in the cavity of the heart, Svurato, let him be manifest. Bah, your Shashinandana, the son of Mother Shashi. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Shashi Devi, be transcendentally situated in the innermost chambers of your heart, resplendent with the radiance of the molten gold. He has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever even offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of the devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. राधा कृष्ण प्रणय विकृतिर्अह्लादिनिर्शक्तिरस्मात् एकत्मानव अपि भुवि पुर देहभेदं गतौ तौ चैतन्याख्यं प्रकटम् अधुना तद्वयं च ऐक्यमाप्तं राधा भावद्युतिसुवलितं नौमि कृष्णस्वरूपम् Radha, Srimati Radharani, Krishna of Lord Krishna, Pranay of love, Vikriti, the transformation, Alhadinir Shakti, pleasure potency, Asmat, from this, Ekatmano, both the same in identity, Api, although, Bhuvi, on earth, Pura, formerly, Deha Bhedam, separate forms, Gatau, Tau, obtained, Tau, those two, Chaitanyakyam, known as Sri Chaitanya Prakatam, manifest, Adhuna, now, Tat Dvayam, the two of them, Cha, and Aikyam, unity, Aptam obtained Radha of Srimati Radharani, Bhava, Mood, Duti, Luster, Subalitam, who is adorned with Naomi. I offer my obeisances, Krishna Swarupam, to him who is identical with Sri Krishna. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, previously they separate themselves. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. श्रीराधायाः प्रणयमहिमा कीदृशोऽवानयेव स्वाद्यो येन अद्भुतमधुरिमा कीदृशो व मदीयः सौख्यं चास्य मदनुभवतः कीदृशं वेति लोभात् तद्भावाद्य समजनि शशिगर्भसिन्धो हरिन्दो श्रीराधायाः of Srimati Radharani Pranaya Mahima the greatness of love कीदृश of what kind va or anaya by this one, Radha, eva alone, asvada to be relished, yena by that love, adbhuta madhurima, the wonderful sweetness, kidasha of what kind, va, or madiya of me, saukhyam, the happiness, cha, and asya, her, mat anubhavataha, from realizations of my sweetness, kidrisham of what kind, va, or iti, thus, lobhat, from the desire, tat, her, Bhavadya, richly endowed with emotions, Samajani took birth, Shashigarbha, of the womb of Srimati Shashi Devi, Sindhu, in the ocean, Hari, Lord Krishna, Indu, like the moon, describing, desiring to understand the glory of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with the emotions, appeared from the womb of Srimati Shashi Devi as the moon appeared from the ocean. सङ्कर्षणः कारणतो यशाहि कर्बोदशायी च पयोब्धिशायी शेषश्च यस्य आंशकलः स नित्यानन्दाख्य रामं शरणं ममास्तु Sankarsana, Mahasankarshan in the spiritual sky, Karanato Yashai of Karanadokshay Vishnu, who lies in the causal ocean, Garbha Udashai, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, who lies in the Garbhodak ocean of the universe, Cha Payodhashai, Kshirodakshai, who lies in the ocean of the milk, Shesha, Sheshanak, the couch of Vishnu, Cha Yasya, and whose Amsha, plenary portions, Kala, and parts of the plenary portions, Sa, he, Nityanandakya, known as Lord Nityananda, Rama, Lord Balaram, Sharanam, shelter, Mama, my, Astu, let there be. May Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarshana, Sheshnag, and Vishnus who lie in the Karan ocean, Garbha ocean, and the ocean of milk are his plenary portions, and the portions of his plenary portions. मायातीतव्यापी वैकुण्ठलोके पूर्णैश्वर्यश्रीचतुर्व्यूहमध्ये रूपं यस्य उद्भाति सङ्कर्षणाख्यं तं श्रीनित्यानन्दरामं प्रपद्ये मायातीते beyond the material creation, Vyapi, all expanding Vaikuntha Loke, in the Vaikuntha Loka, the spiritual world, Purnashwar endowed with full opulence, Sri Chaturvyuha Madhye, in the quadruple expansions, Vasudeva Sankarshan Pradyumna and Anirudh, Rupam, form Yasya whose Udbhati appears, Sankarshan Akhyam, known as Sankarshan, Tam to him Sri Nityananda Ram, to Lord Balaram in form of Lord Nityananda, Prapadye, I surrender. I surrender unto lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, known as Sankarshana in the midst of Chaturvyuha, consisting of Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Anirudh. He possesses full opulences and resides in Vaikuntha Loka, far beyond the material creation. माया भर्ता जाण्ड सङ्घर्षयाङ्गः सेते साक्षात्कारणाम्बोधिमध्ये यस्य एक अंश श्रीपुमानादिदेवस्तं श्रीनित्यानन्दरामं प्रपद्ये Maya Bharta, the master of illusory energy, Aja and Asangha of the multitude of universes, Ashraya, the shelter, Anga, whose body, Shete, he lies, Saksha, directly, Karanam Bodhi Madhye, in the midst of causal ocean, Yasya, whose Ekamsha, one portion, Sri Puman, the supreme person, Adi Deva, the original Purusha incarnation, Tam to him, Sri Nityananda Ramam, to Lord Balaram in the form of Lord Nityananda, Prapadye, I surrender. I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, whose partial representation called Karanodukshai Vishnu lying on the Karan ocean is the original Purusha, the master of illusory energy and the shelter of all universes. यस्य अंश अंश शिलगर्भोदशायि यन्नाभिअब्जं लोकसङ्घातनालं लोकस्रष्टुस्यूतिकधाम धातुस्तं श्रीनित्यानन्दरामं प्रपद्ये Yasya, whose Amsha, portion of plenary portion, Srila Garbhodakshai Vishnu, yet of whom Nabhi Abjam, navel lotus, Loka Sanghat, of multitude of planets, Nalam, having a stem, is the resting place, Loka Shrashtu, of Lord Brahma, creator of the planets, Shutika Dham, the birthplace, Dhatu, of the creator, Tam, to him, Sri Nityananda Ramam, to Lord Balram, in the form of Lord Nityananda. Prapadye, I surrender. I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityanandaram, a partial part of whom is Garbhodakshai Vishnu. From the navel of Garbhodakshai Vishnu sprouts the lotus, that is the birthplace of Brahma, the engineer of the universe. The stem of that lotus is the resting place of the multitude of planets. यस्य आंशः परमा अखिलाणां पोष्टविष्णुर्भाति दुग्धाब्दिशायि क्षौणीभर्ता यत्कलासोऽपि अनन्तस्तं श्रीनित्यानन्दरामं प्रपद्ये यस्य whose अंश portion of plenary portion para atma supreme akhilanam of all living entities, Poshta the maintainer, Vishnu, Bhati appears, Dugd Abdishai, Shirdukshai Vishnu, Shauni Bharta, upholder of the earth, Yat whose Kala, portion of the portion, Sa, he, Api certainly, Ananta, Sheshanag, Tam to him, Sri Nityananda Ram, to Lord Balaram in the form of Lord Nityananda, Prapadye, I surrender. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityanandaram, whose secondary part is the Vishnu lying in the ocean of milk. That Kshirodakshay Vishnu is the super soul of all living entities and the maintainer of all universes. Sheshanag is his further subpart. महाविष्णुर्जगत्कर्ता मायया सृजाति यद तस्य अवतार एवायम् अद्वैताचार्य ईश्वरः Mahavishnu, the resting place of the efficient cause, Jagatkarta, the creator of the cosmic world, Mayaya, by the illusory energy, Yah, who Srijati creates Adah, that universe, Tasya, his avatar, incarnation, Eva, certainly I am, this Advaitacharya Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, the resting place of the material cause. Translation: Lord Advaitacharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Advaitam Harina Advaitat Acharyam Bhakti Samshana Bhagata Avtaramisham Tam Advaitacharyam Ashraye. Advaitam, known as Advaita, Harina, with Lord Hari, Advaita, from being non-different, Acharyam, known as Acharya, Bhakti Samshanat, from the propagation of devotional service of Sri Krishna to Sri Krishna, Bhakta Avtaram, the incarnation as a devotee, Isham, to the Supreme Lord, Tam, to him, Advaita Acharyam, to Advaita Acharya, Ashraye, I surrender. Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita, and because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhakta Avtaram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Panchatattvatmakam, comprehending the five transcendental subject matters, Krishnam unto Lord Krishna, Bhakta Rupa in the form of devotee, Swarupakam in the expansion of devotee, Bhakta Avtaram in the incarnation of devotee, Bhaktakyam known as a devotee, Namami I offer my obeisances, Bhakta Shaktikam the energy of Supreme Personality of Godhead who supplies energy to the devotee. I offer my obeisance unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is non-different from his features as a devotee, devotional incarnation, devotional manifestation, pure devotee, and devotional energy. Jayatam Suratau Pangor Mama Mandamatirkati Matsarvasva Padambhujau Radha Madana Mohano. Jayatam, all glory to Suratau, most merciful or attached in conjugal love, Pango, of one who is lame, Mama Manda Mate, of me foolish, Gati, refugee, Mat, my, Sarvasva, everything, Padambhojau, whose lotus feet, Radha Madana Mohano, Radharani and Madan Mohana. Glory to all merciful Sri Radha and Madan Mohan. I am lame and ill advised, yet they are my directors, and the lotus feet are everything to me. दिव्यावृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमः श्रीमद्रत्नागारसिंहासनस्थो श्रीमद्राधाश्रीलगोविन्ददेवो प्रेष्ठालिभिः सेव्यमानो स्मरामि. Divyat shining Vrindaranya in the forest of Vrindavan, Kalpadruma, desire tree, Adha beneath, Srimad most merciful Ratnagar in the temple of jewels, Simhasanastho sitting on a throne, Srimad very beautiful Radha, Srimati Radharani, Srila Govinda Devo and Srila Govinda Deva, Presthalibi by the most confidential associates, Sevyamano being served, Smarami, I remember, in a temple of jewels in Vrindavan underneath a desire tree. Sri Sri Radha Govinda Dev, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भी वंशीवटतटस्थित कर्षणवेणुस्वनैर्गोपी गोपीनाथः श्रियस्तु नः. Shriman, most beautiful rasa of the rasa dance, rasa of the mellow, Arambhi, the initiator, Vamshivata, Tata on the shore, Stitah, standing, Karshan, attracting, Venu or the flute, Swanek by the sounds, Gopi, the cowherd girls, Gopinath, the Sri Gopinath, Shriye, benediction, Astu, let there be, Nah, our Sri Srila Gopinath, who originated the transcendental mellow of the Rasa dance, stands on the shore in the Vamshivata and attracts the attention of cowherd damsels with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction. जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय all glory श्री चैतन्य to श्री चैतन्य जय all glory नित्यानंद to Lord Nityananda जय द्वैत चंद्र to Lord all glory to Advaitacharya जय all glory गौर भक्त वृंद to the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda, glory to Advaitacharya, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaur, Lord Chaitanya. এই তিন ঠাকুর গড়িয়া কে করিয়া ছেন আত্মসাৎ এই তিনের চরণ বন্ধু তিনে মোর নাথ এই তিন ঠাকুর these three deities গড়িয়া কে the Gaudiya Vaishnavas করিয়া ছেন have done আত্মসাৎ absorbed এই তিনের these all the three charan lotus feet bandhu I worship tine moranath these three are my lords. These three deities of Vrindavan, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinath, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Purport. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita offers his respectful obeisance unto the three deities of Vrindavan, namely Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Radha Govinda Deva, and Sri Radha Gopinath Ji. These three deities are the life and soul of Bengali Vaishnavas, or Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who have a natural aptitude for residing in Vrindavan. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who follow strictly in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, worship the divinity by chanting the transcendental sounds meant to develop a sense of one's transcendental relationship with the Supreme Lord, a reciprocation of mellows, rasas, of mutual affection, and ultimately the achievement of desired success in loving service. These three deities are worshipped in three different stages of one's development. The followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu scrupulously follow these principles of approach. Gaudiya Vaishnavas perceive the ultimate objective in Vedic hymns composed of 18 transcendental letters that adore Krishna as Madana Mohana, Govinda, and Gopi Jana Vallabha. Madan Mohan is he who charms Cupid, the god of love. Govinda is he who pleases the senses and the cows. And Gopi Jana Vallabha is the transcendental lover of the gopis. Krishna himself is called Madan Mohan, Govinda, Gopi Jana Vallabha, and countless other names as he plays in his different pastimes with his devotees. The three deities, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopijana Vallabha, have very specific qualities. Worship of Madan Mohan is on the platform of re establishing our forgotten relationship with the personality of Godhead. In the material world, we are presently in utter ignorance of our eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. Pango refers to one who cannot move independently by his own strength, and Mandmate is the one who is less intelligent because he is too absorbed in the materialistic activities. It is best for such persons not to aspire for success in fruitive activities or mental speculation, but instead simply to surrender to Supreme Personality of Godhead. The perfection of life is simply to surrender to the Supreme. In the beginning of spiritual life, we must therefore worship Madan Mohan so that he may attract us and nullify our attachment for the material sense gratification. This relationship with Madan Mohan is necessary for neophyte devotees. When one wishes to render service to the Lord with a strong attachment, one worships Govinda on the platform of transcendental service. Govinda is the reservoir of all pleasures. When, by the grace of Krishna and the devotees, one reaches the perfection of devotional service, he can appreciate Krishna as Gopi Jana Vallabha, the pleasure deity of the damsels of Vraja. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this mode of devotional service in the three stages, and therefore these worshipable deities were installed in Vrindavan by different Goswamis. They are very dear to the Gauriya Vaishnavas, who visit the temples at least once a day. Besides the temples of these three deities, many other temples have been established in Vrindavan, such as Temple of Radha Damodar of Jiva Goswami, the Temple of Shyama Sundar of Shyamanand Goswami, the Temple of Gokunanand of Lokanath Goswami, and the Temple of Radha Raman of Gopal Bhatt Goswami. There are seven principal temples over 400 years old that are the most important of the 5,000 temples now existing in Vrindavan. Gaudiya indicates the part of India between the southern side of the Himalayan mountains and the northern part of Vindhya hills, which is called Aryabhat or the land of Aryans. This portion of India is divided into five parts or provinces: Panch Gauda Desh, Saraswat, Kashmir and Punjab; Kanya Kubj, Uttar Pradesh, including modern city of Lucknow; Madhya Gaud, Madhya Pradesh; Maithila, Bihar and part of Bengal; and Utkal, part of Bengal and whole of Odisha. Bengal is sometimes called Gauda Desh, partly because it forms a portion of Maithila, and partly because the capital of Hindu king Raja Lakshman Sen was known as Gauda. This old capital later known to be known as Gaudapura and gradually Mayapur. The devotees of Odisha are called Udiyas, and the devotees of Bengal are called Gaudiyas, and the devotees of southern India are known as Dravida devotees. As there are five provinces in Aryabhat, so Dakshinatya, the southern India, is also divided into five provinces, which are called Panch Dravid. The four Vaishnavacharyas, who are great authorities of four Vaishnava disciplic successions, as well as Sri Pad Shankaracharya of Mayavada school, appeared in the Panch Dravida provinces. Among the four Vaishnavacharyas who all accepted by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Sri Ramanujacharya appeared in the southern part of the Andhra Pradesh at Mahabhutapuri. Sri Madhavacharya appeared at Pajakam near Vimanagiri in the district of Mangalore. Sri Vishnu Swami appeared at Pandya, and Sri Nimbarka appeared at Mungera Patan in the extreme south. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the chain of disciplic succession from Madhva Acharya, but the Vaishnavas in his line do not accept the Tattvavadis who also claim to belong to the Madhva Sampradaya. To distinguish themselves clearly from the Tattvavadi branch of Madhva's descendants, the Vaishnavas of Bengal refer to call themselves Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Sri Madhva Acharya is also known as Sri Gauda Purnanand, and therefore the name Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is quite suitable for the disciplic succession of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj accepted initiation in the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, particularly not R. It should be the spiritual master of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada was Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, who accepted initiation in Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Text 20. ग्रंथेर आरंभ करी मंगलाचरण गुरु वैष्णव भगवान तिनेर स्मरण ग्रंथेर आरंभ or the beginning of this book kari mangalacharan I make auspicious invocation Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan spiritual master devotees of Lord and Bhagavan supreme personality of God Teener of these three smaran remembering in the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. तीनेर स्मरण हय विघ्न विनाशन अनायासे हय निज वांछित पूरण तीनेर स्मरण हय of these three remembrance there is Vigna Vinashana, destruction of all difficulties. Anayasi, very easily, Haya nature. There is our own Vanchita of the desired object. Purana, fulfillment. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Sei मंगलाचरण हय त्रिविध प्रकार वस्तु निर्देश आशीर्वाद नमस्कार Sei Mangalacharan, that on auspicious invocation, Haya Trividha Prakar is of three kinds, processes. Vastu Nirdesh, defining the objective. Ashirvad, benedictions. Namaskar, obeisances. The invocation involves three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. प्रथम दुई श्लोके इष्टदेव नमस्कार सामान्य विशेष रूपे द्वैत प्रकार प्रथम दुई श्लोके in the first two shlokas, in the first two verses, इष्टदेव नमस्कार, worshipable deity obeisances, सामान्य generally, विशेष रूप and specifically, द्वैत प्रकार, to certainly ways. Translation: the first two verses offer respectful obeisances generally and specifically to the Lord, who is the object of worship. तृतीय श्लोके ते करी वस्तुर निर्देश यहाँ है ते जानी पर तत्वेर उद्देश तृतीय श्लोके ते in the third verse करी I make वस्तुर निर्देश of the object indication यहाँ है ते from which जानी I understand पर तत्वेर of the absolute truth उद्देश identification. In the third verse, I indicate the absolute truth, who is the ultimate substance. With such a description, one can visualize the supreme truth. चतुर्थ श्लोके ते करी जगते आशीर्वाद सर्वत्र मांगिए कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रसाद चतुर्थ श्लोके ते fourth in the verse fourth करी I make जगते for the world आशीर्वाद benediction सर्वत्र मांगिए everywhere I am begging Krishna Chaitanya of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Prasad the mercy. In the fourth verse I have invoked the benediction of the Lord upon all the world, praying to Lord Chaitanya for his mercy upon all. सेई श्लोके कही बाह्य अवतार कारण पंचषष्ठे श्लोके कही मूल प्रयोजन सेई श्लोके in the same verse kahi I tell bahya avatar the external reason of the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya karana reason Panchav in the fifth, Shashtav and the sixth, Shloke in the verses, Kahi I tell, Mula Prayojana, the prime purpose. In that verse, I have also explained the external reason of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation, but in the fifth and sixth verses, I have explained the prime reason for his advent. एच्छय श्लोके कहि चैतन्येर तत्व आर पंच श्लोके नित्यानंदेर महत्व Eichaya Shloke. In these six verses, Kahi I describe Chaitanya of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Tattva, the truth. Are further Pancha Shloke in the fifth verses, Nityanandir of Lord Nityananda Mahatva, the glory. In the in these six verses, I have described the truth about Lord Chaitanya, whereas in the next five, I have described glory of Lord Nityananda. आर दुई श्लोके अद्वैत तत्वाख्यान आर एक श्लोके पंचतत्वेर व्याख्यान आर दुई श्लोके for the दुई श्लोके in the two verses Advaita of Sri Advaita Prabhu Tattva of the truth Akhyana description आर further एक श्लोके in the verse पंचतत्वेर of the पंचतत्व व्याख्यान explanation. The next two verses describe the truth of Advaita Prabhu and the following verse describe the Panchatattva, the Lord, his plenary portion, his incarnation, his energies, and his devotees. ए 14 श्लोके करी मंगलाचरण ताहि मध्य कही सब वस्तु निरूपण ए 14 श्लोके in these 14 verses kari I make mangalacharan auspicious invocation tahi therefore in that madhya within kahi I speak sab all vastu object nirupan description. These 14 verses therefore offer auspicious invocations and describe the supreme truth. सब श्रोता वैष्णवेर करी नमस्कार एई सब श्लोकेर करी अर्थ विचार सब श्रोता all hearers and audience Vaishnavere unto the Vaishnavas kari offering namaskar obeisances ei sab shlokere of all these 14 verses kari I make earth of the meaning vichar analysis. I offer my obeisances unto all my Vaishnava readers as I begin to explain the intricacies of all these verses. Sakala Vaishnava Shona Kari Ekamana Chaitanya Krishnera Shastra Mata Nirupana. Sakal, all Vaishnava, O devotees of Lord, Shona, please hear. Kari, making a command, rapt attention. Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishnera Shastra of Lord Sri Krishna, scriptural reference, Mata according to Nirupan decision. I request all my Vaishnava readers to read and hear with rapt attention this narration of Sri Krishna Chaitanya as inculcated in the revealed scriptures. Purport: Lord Chaitanya is the absolute truth, Krishna himself. This is substantiated by evidence from the authentic scriptural spiritual scriptures. Sometimes people accept a man as God on the basis of their whimsical sentiments and without reference to the revealed scriptures, but the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita proves all his statements by citing the Shastras. Thus, he establishes that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna Guru Bhakta Shakti Avatar Prakash Krishna Echaya Rupe Karena Vilas Krishna, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, Guru, spiritual masters, Bhakta, devotees, Shakti, the potencies, Avatar, incarnations, Prakash, plenary portions, Krishna Echaya Rupe, Lord Sri Krishna in these six features, Karina Vilas, enjoys. Lord Krishna enjoys by manifesting himself as spiritual masters, devotees, diverse energies, incarnations, and the plenary portions. These are all six in one. इच्छय तत्वेर करी चरण वंदन प्रथम सामान्य करी मंगलाचरण Ichaya, these six Tatvera of these expansions Kari I make Charana Vandana, the lotus feet prayers. Prathame at first Samanya, in general Kari I make Mangala Charana, auspicious invocation. I therefore worship the lotus feet of these six diversities of one truth by invoking their benedictions. वन्दे गुरूण ईश भक्तान् ईशम् ईश अवतारकान् तत्प्रकाशांश्च तच्छक्तिः कृष्ण चैतन्य संज्ञकम् One day I offer my respectful obeisances Gurun unto the spiritual masters, Isha Bhaktan unto devotees of Supreme Lord, Isham unto Supreme Lord, Isha Avatarakan unto the incarnation of Supreme Lord, Tat to of the Supreme Lord, Prakashan unto the manifestations, Cha and Tat of the Supreme Lord, Shakti unto the potencies, Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sangyakam named. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord, Lord incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Purport: Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has composed this Sanskrit verse for the beginning of his book, and now he will explain it in detail. He offers his respectful obeisances to the six principles of absolute truth. Gurun in plural is plural in number because anyone who gives spiritual instruction based on the revealed scriptures is accepted as spiritual master. Although others give help in showing the way to beginners, the guru who first initiates one with the Maha Mantra is to be known as the initiator, and the saints who give instruction for progressive advancement in Krishna consciousness are called instructing spiritual masters. The initiating and instructing spiritual masters are equal and identical manifestations of Krishna, although they have different dealings. Their function is to guide conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami accepted Nityananda Prabhu and the six Goswamis in the category of Guru. Isha Bhaktan refers to the devotees of the Lord like Sri Srivas and all other such followers who are the energy of the Lord and are qualitatively non-different from him. Isha Avatarakan refers to the acharyas like Advaita Prabhu, who is an avatar of Lord. Tat Prakashan indicates the direct manifestation of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nityanand Prabhu, and the initiating spiritual master. Tat Shakti refers to the spiritual master, spiritual energies, Shaktis of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gadadhar, Damodar, and Jagadananda belong to this category of internal energy. The six principles are differently manifested but are equally worshipable. Krishnadas Kaviraj begins by offering his obeisances unto them to teach us the method of worshipping Lord Chaitanya. The external potency of Godhead, called Maya, can never associate with the Lord, just as darkness cannot remain in the presence of light. Yet darkness, being but illusory and temporary covering of light, has no existence independent of light. मंत्र गुरु आर्यत शिक्षा गुरु गण ताहर चरण आगे करिए वंदन mantra guru are the initiating spiritual master are and also yet as many are as there are shiksha guru gan all instructing spiritual masters. Tahar charan aage, of all of them unto lotus feet, aage at first kariye vanda. Or I offer respectful obeisances. I offer my respectful obeisance unto lotus feet of my initiating spiritual master and all my instructing spiritual masters. Purport: Srila Jiva Goswami in his thesis Bhakti Sandarbha 202 has stated that uncontaminated devotional service is the objective of pure Vaishnavas, and that one has to execute such service in the association of other devotees. By associating with devotees of Lord Krishna, one develops a sense of Krishna consciousness, and thus becomes inclined towards loving service of the Lord. This is the process of approaching the Supreme Lord by gradual appreciation in the devotional service. If one desires unalloyed devotional service, one must associate with the devotees of Sri Krishna, for by such association one only can a conditioned soul achieve the taste for transcendental love and thus revive his eternal relationship with Godhead in a specific manifestation and in terms of specific transcendental mellow that one has eternally inherent in him? If one develops love for Krishna by Krishna conscious activities, one can know the supreme absolute truth, but he who tries to understand God simply by logic or arguments will not succeed, nor will he get a taste for unalloyed devotion. The secret is that one must submissively listen to those who know perfectly the science of God, and one must begin the mode of service regulated by the preceptor. The devotee already attracted by the name, form, qualities, etc. of the Supreme Lord may be directed to a specific manner of devotional service. He need not waste time in approaching the Lord through logic. The expert spiritual master knows well how to engage his disciples' energy in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and thus he engages a devotee in a specific devotional service according to his special tendency. A devotee must have only one initiating spiritual master because in the scriptures acceptance of more than one is always forbidden. There is no limit, however, to the number of instructing spiritual masters one may accept. Generally, a spiritual master who constantly instructs a disciple in spiritual science becomes his initiating spiritual master later on. One should always remember that a person who is reluctant to accept a spiritual master and be initiated is sure to be baffled in his endeavor to go back to Godhead. One who is not properly initiated may present himself as a great devotee, but in fact he is sure to encounter many stumbling blocks on his path of progress towards spiritual realization, with the result that he must continue his term of material existence without relief. Such a helpless person is compared to a ship without a rudder, for such a ship can never reach its destination. It is imperative, therefore, that one accept a spiritual master if he at all desires to gain the favor of Lord. The service of spiritual master is essential. If there is no chance to serve spiritual master directly, a devotee should serve him by remembering his instructions. There is no difference between the spiritual master's instructions and the spiritual master himself. In his absence, therefore, his words of direction should be the pride of disciple. If one thinks that he is above consulting anyone else, including a spiritual master, he is at once an offender at the lotus feet of Lord. Such an offender can never go back to Godhead. It is imperative that a serious person accept a bona fide spiritual master in terms of Shastric injunctions. Sri Jiva Goswami advises that one not accept a spiritual master in terms of hereditary or customary social and ecclesiastical conventions. One should simply try to find a genuinely qualified spiritual master for actual advancement in spiritual understanding. श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ, श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ, श्री रूप श्री रूप गोस्वामी सनातन सनातन गोस्वामी भट्ट रघुनाथ रघुनाथ भट्ट गोस्वामी, श्रील जीव गोस्वामी श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट गोस्वामी दास रघुनाथ श्रीलदास गोस रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी. My instructing spiritual masters are Sri Rup Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Bhatt Raghunath, Sri Jeev Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. ए छय गुरु शिक्षा गुरु ये अमार, तसबार पाद पद्मे कोटि नमस्कार. Eichaya Guru, these six Guru spiritual masters, Shiksha Guru instructing spiritual masters, Ye Amar, who are my, Tansabar of all of them, Pada Padme, unto the lotus feet, Koti 10 million, Namaskar, respectful obeisances. These six are my instructing spiritual masters, and therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto their lotus feet. By accepting the six Goswamis as his instructing spiritual masters, the author specifically makes it clear that one should not be recognized as Gaudiya Vaishnav if he is not obedient to them. भगवानेर भक्त यत श्रीवस प्रधान तासबार पाद पद्मे Sahasra Pranam. Bhagvaner of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhakta the devotees, Yata as many as there are, Srivasa Pradhan, headed by Srivasa. Tasabar of all of them Pada Padme unto lotus feet, Sahasra thousands Pranam, respectful obeisances. There are innumerable devotees of the Lord, of whom the Srivas Thakur is the foremost. I offer my respectful obeisances thousands of times unto their lotus feet. Advaita Acharya Prabhura Amsha Avatar, Tar Pad Padme Koti Pranati Amar. Advaita Acharya Prabhura of the Supreme Lord, Amsha Avatar, partial incarnation, Taro of him Pada Padma, unto lotus feet, Koti 10 million, Pranati, respectful obeisances, Amar, my. Advaita Acharya is the Lord's partial incarnation, and therefore I offer my respectful obeisances millions of times at his lotus feet. नित्यानंद राय प्रभुर स्वरूप प्रकाश तार पाद पद्म बंधु यार मोईदास. Nityananda Rai of Lord Nityananda Prabhu or the Supreme Lord, Swarupa Prakash, personal manifestation, Taru of him Pada Padma unto lotus feet, Bando, I offer my respectful obeisances, Yar of whom Mui I am Das, the servant. Translation: Srila Nityananda Ram is the plenary manifestation of the Lord, and I have been initiated by him. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. गदाधर पंडितादि प्रभुर निज शक्ति तासबार चरणे मोर सहस्र प्रणति. Gadadhar Panditadi, headed by Sri Gadadhar Pandit, Prabhu of the Supreme Lord, Nij Shakti, internal potencies, Tasabar of all of them, Charane, unto lotus feet, more my Sahasra thousands, Pranati, respectful obeisances. I offer my respectful obeisances unto internal potencies of the Lord, of whom Sri Gadadhar Prabhu is the foremost. श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु स्वयं भगवान ताहर पदार विंदे अनंत प्रणाम. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhu, the Supreme Lord, Swayam Bhagavan is the original personality of Godhead. Tahar, his Padaram Vinde, unto the lotus feet, Ananta, innumerable, Pranam, respectful obeisances. Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the personality of Godhead himself, and therefore I offer my innumerable prostrations at his lotus feet. स आवरणे प्रभु रे करिया नमस्कार ए छयते हूँ ये छे करिए विचार. Avarani, along with his associates Prabhu unto Lotus unto Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kariya having made Namaskar, respectful obeisances, A these Chaya 6 Tehu he Yeche, what they are like Kari may I make Vichar discussion. Having offered obeisances unto the Lord and all his associates, I shall now try to explain these six diversities in one. There are many unalloyed devotees of Lord of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all of whom are considered associates surrounding the Lord. Krishna should be worshipped with his devotees. The diverse principles are therefore the eternal paraphernalia through which the absolute truth can be approached. यद्यपि अमर गुरु चैतन्य दास तथापि जानिए अमिता हर प्रकाश. Yadyapi, even though Amar Guru, my spiritual master, Chaitanya of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Das, the servitor, Tathapi, still, Jani, no, Ami, I, Tahar Prakash, of the Lord, direct manifestation. Although I know that my spiritual master is a servitor of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I know him also as a plenary manifestation of the Lord. Every living entity is essentially a servant of Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the spiritual master is also his servant. Still, the spiritual master is a direct manifestation of the Lord. With this conviction, the disciple can advance in Krishna consciousness. The spiritual master is non different from Krishna because he is the manifestation of Krishna. Lord Nityananda, who is Balram himself, the first direct manifestation or expansion of Krishna, is the original spiritual master. He helps Lord Krishna in his pastimes, and he is a servant of the Lord. Every living entity is eternally a servant of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Therefore, spiritual master cannot be other than the servant of Lord Chaitanya. The spiritual master's eternal occupation is to expand the service of Lord by training disciples in a service attitude. A spiritual master never poses as Supreme Lord himself. He is considered a representative of Lord. The revealed scriptures prohibit one's pretending to be God, but a bona fide spiritual master is most faithful and confidential servant of the Lord, therefore deserves as much respect as Krishna. गुरु कृष्ण रूप हन शास्त्रेर प्रमाण गुरु रूपे कृष्ण कृपा करेण भक्त गाणे. Guru Krishna Rupahana. The spiritual master Krishna Rupa, as good as Krishna Hana, is Shastrera of revealed scriptures Pramane by the evidence. Guru Rupa in the form of spiritual master Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna, Kripa Karena, Kripa mercy distributes Bhaktagani unto his devotees. According to the deliberate opinion of the revealed scriptures, the spiritual master is non different from Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna, in the form of spiritual master, delivers his devotees. Relationship of a disciple with his spiritual master is as good as his relationship with the Supreme Lord. A spiritual master always represents himself as the humblest servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the disciple must look upon him as the manifested representation of Godhead. आचार्यं मां विजानीयान् न अवमन्येत करिचित् नामर्त्यबुद्ध्या सूयेत सर्वदेव मयो गुरु. Acharyam, the spiritual master, Mam, myself, Vijaniyat, one should know, Na avamanyet, one should never disrespect, Karichit, at any time, Na never, Martyabuddhya, with the idea of his being an ordinary man, Ashuyet, one should be envious, Sarva Devo, of all demigods, Maya, representative, Guru, the spiritual master, one should know the Acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him thinking him ordinary man, for he is the representative of all demigods. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by Lord Krishna when he was questioned by Uddhava regarding the four social and spiritual orders of society. The Lord was specifically instructing how a brahmachari should behave under the care of spiritual master. The spiritual master is not an enjoyer of facilities offered by his disciples. He is like a parent. Without the attentive service of his parent, a child cannot grow to manhood. Similarly, without the care of spiritual master, one cannot rise to the plane of transcendental service. The spiritual master is also called an acharya or a transcendental professor of spiritual science. The Manu Samhita 2.140 explains the duties of an acharya, describing that a bona fide spiritual master accepts charge of his disciples, teaches them Vedic knowledge with all its intricacies, and gives them their second birth. The ceremony performed to initiate a disciple into study of spiritual science is called Upaniti, or the function that brings one nearer to the spiritual master. One who cannot be brought nearer to the spiritual master cannot have a sacred thread, and thus he is indicated to be a Shudra. A sacred thread on the body of Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya is a symbol of initiation by the spiritual master. It is worth nothing if worn merely to boast high parentage. The duty of spiritual master is to initiate a disciple with the sacred thread ceremony, and after the samskara or purificatory process, the spiritual master actually begins to teach the disciple about Vedas. A person born a Shudra is not barred from such spiritual initiation, provided he is approved by the spiritual master, who is duly authorized to award the disciple the right to be a Brahman if he finds him perfectly qualified. In the Vayu Puran, an Acharya is defined as one who knows the import of all Vedic literatures, abide by their rules and regulations, teaches his disciples to act in the same way, and teaches his disciples to act in the same way. Only out of his immense, only out of his immense compassion Only out of his immense compassion does the personality of God reveal himself as the spiritual master. Therefore, in the dealings of Acharya, there are no activities but those of transcendental loving service to the Lord. He is supreme personality of servitor Godhead. It is worthwhile to take shelter of such a steady devotee who is called Ashray Vigrah, or the manifestation or the form of the Lord, of whom one must take shelter. If one poses himself as an Acharya but does not have an attitude of servitorship to the Lord, he must be considered an offender, and this offensive attitude disqualifies him from being an acharya. The bona fide spiritual master always engages in unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this test, he is known to be the direct manifestation of the Lord and a genuine representative of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Such a spiritual master is known as Acharya Dev, influenced by an envious temperament and dissatisfied because of an attitude of sense gratification. Mundaners criticize a real Acharya. In fact, however, a bona fide Acharya is non different from the personality of Godhead, and therefore to envy such an Acharya is to envy the personality of Godhead himself. This will produce an effect subversive to the transcendental realization. As mentioned previously, the disciple should always respect the spiritual master as a manifestation of Sri Krishna, but at the same time one should always remember that a spiritual master is never authorized to imitate the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. False spiritual masters pose themselves as identical with Sri Krishna in every respect to exploit the sentiments of their disciples. But such impersonalists can only mislead their disciples, for their ultimate aim is to become one with the Lord. This is against the principles of the devotional cult. The real Vedic philosophy is Achintya Bhed Abheda Tattva, which establishes everything to be simultaneously one with and different from personality of Godhead. Sri Raghunath Das Goswami confirms that this is the real position of the bona fide spiritual master and says that one should always think of the spiritual master in terms of his intimate relationship with Mukunda, Sri Krishna. Srila Jiva Goswami, in his Bhakti Sandarbha 213, has clearly explained that a pure devotee's observation of the spiritual master and Lord Shiva as being one with the personality of Godhead exist in terms of being there very dear to the Lord, not identical with him in all respects. Following in the footsteps of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and Srila Jeev Goswami, later acharyas like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have confirmed the same results. In his prayers to spiritual masters, the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms that all the revealed scriptures accept the spiritual master to be identical with the personality of Godhead because he is very dear and confidential servant of the Lord. Gaudiya Vaishnavas therefore worship Srila Gurudev, the spiritual master, in the light of his being the servitor of personality of Godhead. In all the ancient literature of devotional service and in more recent songs of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and other unalloyed Vaishnavas, spiritual master is always considered either one of the confidential associates of Srimati Radharani or manifested representation of Srila Nityanand Prabhu. शिक्षा गुरु के जानी कृष्णेर स्वरूप अंतर्यामी भक्त श्रेष्ठ ए दुई रूप शिक्षा guru ke the spiritual master who instructs the indeed jani I know krishner swarup of krishna swarup direct representative antaryami the indwelling super soul bhakta shreshtha the best devotee ei dui roop these two forms one should know the instructing spiritual master to be the personality of krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the super soul and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. Purport. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami states that the instructing spiritual master is a bona fide representation of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna himself teaches us as instructing spiritual master from within and without. From within, he teaches us as Paramatma, a constant companion, and from without, he teaches from Bhagavad Gita as the instructing spiritual master. There are two kinds of instructing spiritual masters. One is liberated person fully absorbed in meditation in devotional service, and other is he who invokes disciples' spiritual consciousness by means of relevant instructions. Thus, the instruction in the science of devotion are differentiated in terms of objective and subjective ways of understanding. The Acharya, in true sense of the term, who is authorized to deliver Krishna, enriches the disciple with full spiritual knowledge and thus awakens him to the activities of devotional service. When, by learning, when by learning from the self-realized spiritual master, one actually engages himself in the service of Lord Vishnu, functional devotional service begins. The procedures of this devotional service are known as abhideya or actions one is duty bound to perform. Our only shelter is the Supreme Lord, and one who teaches how to approach Krishna is a functioning form of the personality of Godhead. There is no difference between the shelter giving Supreme Personality, Supreme Lord, and the initiating and instructing spiritual masters. If one foolishly discriminates between them, he commits an offense in the discharge of devotional service. Srila Sanatan Goswami is the ideal spiritual master, for he delivers one the shelter of the lotus feet of Madan Mohan. Even though one may be unable to travel on the field of Vrindavan due to forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can get an adequate opportunity to stay in Vrindavan and derive all spiritual benefits by the mercy of Sanatan Goswami. Sri Govindaji acts exactly like the Sri Guru, instructing spiritual master by teaching Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. He is the original preceptor, for he gives the instruction and an opportunity to serve him. The initiating spiritual master is a personal manifestation of Sri Madan Mohan Vigrah, whereas the instructing spiritual master is a personal manifestation of Sri Govinda Deva Vigrah. Both of these deities are worshipped at Vrindavan. Srila Gopinath Ji is the ultimate attraction in the supreme realization. नैवो उपयन्ति अपचितिं कवयस्तवेश ब्रह्मायुषापि कृतं दृढमूढः स्मरन्तः यो अन्तर्बाहिस्तनुभृताम् अशुभं विधूनवान् आचार्य चैत्य वपुषा स्वगतिं व्यणक्ति न एव not at all उपनति उपयन्ति न eva upayanti are able to express apachitim their gratitude kavaya learned devotees tava your ish O Lord Brahma ayush with a lifetime equal to Lord Brahma's api in spite of kritam magnanimous work rida increased mudha mudha joy smaranta remembering yah who antah within bahi outside tanuvritam, of those who are embodied, Ashubham, misfortune, Vidhunvan, dissipating Acharya of the spiritual master, Chaitya of the spiritual soul, of the super soul, Vapusha by the forms, Swa, own, Gatim, path, Vyanakti shows. O my lord, the transcendental poets and experts in the spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with a prolonged lifetime of Brahma, for you appear in two features, externally as Acharya and internally as Super Soul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.29.6 was spoken by Sri Uddhava after he heard from Sri Krishna all necessary instructions about yoga. तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन माम उपयान्ति ते. Tesham unto them satata yuktanam, always engaged, bhajatam in the rendering devotional service, preeti purvakam, in loving ecstasy, tadami I give buddhi yogam, real intelligence, tam that, yena by which mam unto me upayanti te, come they. Translation: to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. This verse of Bhagavad Gita 10.10 clearly states, purport. This verse of Bhagavad Gita 10.10 clearly states how Govinda Deva instructs his bona fide devotee. The Lord declares that by enlightenment in theistic knowledge, he awards attachment for him to those who constantly engage in his transcendental loving service. This awakening of divine consciousness enthralls a devotee, who thus relishes his eternal transcendental mellow. Such an awakening is awarded only to those convinced by the devotional service about the transcendental nature of the personality of Godhead. They know that the supreme truth, the all spiritual and all powerful person, is one without a second and has fully transcendental senses. He is fountainhead of all emanations. Such pure devotees, always merged in the knowledge of Krishna and absorbed in Krishna consciousness, exchange thoughts and realization as great scientists exchange their views and discuss the results of their research in scientific academies. Such exchanges of thoughts in regard to Krishna give pleasure to the Lord, who therefore favors such devotees with all enlightenment. यथा ब्राह्मणे भगवान् स्वयं भावितवान्. Yatha, just as Brahmane unto Lord Brahma, Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, Swayam, himself, Upadishya, having instructed, Anubhavitavan, caused to perceive, the Supreme Personality of God, Swayam Bhagavan, taught Brahma and made him self-realized. The English maxim that God helps those who help themselves is also applicable in the transcendental realm. There are many instances in the revealed scriptures of personality of Godheads acting as the spiritual master from within. The personality of Godhead was the spiritual master who instructed Brahma, the original living being in the cosmic creation. When Brahma was first created, he could not apply his creative energy to arrange the cosmic situation. At first, there was only sound, vibrating the word tapa, which indicates the acceptance of hardships for spiritual realization. Refraining from sensual enjoyment, one should voluntarily accept all sorts of difficulties for spiritual realization. This is called tapasya. An enjoyer of the senses can never realize God, godliness, or the science of theistic knowledge. Thus, when Brahma, initiated by Sri Krishna by the sound vibration tapa, engaged himself in acts of austerity by the pleasure of Vishnu, he was able to visualize the transcendental word, Sri Vaikuntha, through the transcendental realization. Modern science can communicate using material discoveries such as radio, television, and computers, but the science invoked by the austerities of Sri Brahma, the original father of mankind, was still more subtle. In time, material scientists may also know how we can communicate with the Vaikuntha world. Lord Brahma inquired about the potency of the Supreme Lord, and Personality of God answered his inquiry in the following six consecutive statements. These instructions, which are reproduced from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.31 to 36, were imparted by the Personality of Godhead, acting as the Supreme Spiritual Master.